Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Small Business Bootcamp for this Tuesday, August 22nd. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. And I'd like to first thank Faith Ritchie for hosting last week's session. If you were with us for last week, you know that I was out of town and Faith was hosting, and we appreciate Faith jumping in and doing that for us for the boot camp. I'm glad to be back. I was on a road trip to Glacier National Park, which is very far north, long road trip, but it's a gorgeous place if you ever have the chance to get up there. I highly recommend it. So I'm glad to be back. As we start, let's have everybody post in the chat where you're tuning in from, so we can see what markets we have here with us today. Even if you're from out of town, we got Goodyear, Mesa, Phoenix, Globe, Scottsdale, Tucson, Mesa, Yuma, Green Valley, Vale, Gilbert, downtown Phoenix, Peoria, Tucson. Excellent. Got a lot of people from all over. Glad to have you all with us. Again, if you haven't posted, please post in chat. We get an idea where everybody's from. But we're glad to have you with us. So as I like to do when we first start is go through and recognize our community partners. We could not do these webinars without our community partners, their time, their effort, and their expertise. We have over 120 community partners and 200 plus presenters that have been part of the boot camp, and they bring this amazing content to you to help give back to the community and give back to businesses. So we appreciate them very much. So those that are new, the Small Business Bootcamp is designed to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow as we look forward. It is a workshop or is a webinar every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., but it is also some hands-on workshops that we do in person and virtually. And then we also have our great piece called the Content Library. And so the Content Library is where we house the recordings of all of our webinars and even some of our workshops. And you can go in and access the diverse collection of well over 250 recorded webinars. I think we're approaching the 300 mark at this point, but we have a ton of recorded information in there that you can access. And as you see, there's a little on the screen there, there's 7 different categories you can sort by to help find the topic you're looking for. And if you can't, feel free to reach out to me and I will guide you or send you the direct link to ones for topics you might be interested in if you have a specific area of interest. The ACA also has a number of other programs to help support small businesses. We have the Career Readiness Credential program, the Arizona Innovation Challenge, which that program is currently accepting applications for about another week. The Arizona MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership for our small to medium-sized manufacturers in Arizona. The Arizona State Trade Expansion Program for those businesses looking to export your goods and services to other states or other countries. The Arizona at Work works with the OEO, which is housed in our offices. And then our Small Business Services, which I oversee. We can help you navigate the SBA programs, work with the SBDCs, work with a number of other partners and the programs that we offer. One of those programs is the Small Business Checklist. We'd like to mention this because it is a premier resource in the state, and I don't think many other states, if any, have a resource like this for small businesses. But it is an online interactive guide that helps entrepreneurs understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs for your business at the local, state, and federal level. So if you're just getting ready to start a business, you can find that information to make sure you're all legal and properly set up. Or if you're expanding your business into other communities or other industries, you can find that legal and licensing and registration needs through that as well. You can also find other information related to your business, your industry, or just general business planning and procurement, marketing, other information on there as well that can be very helpful. On that checklist as well, we have our virtual assistant, Sally, that can help with some simpler answers But if you're looking for the deep dive, the full buffet of information, you can go right through the checklist and check all the information that you need. So with that, we like to jump into some updates because we want to share things that are going on in the community and the ecosystem. So first, we have our Entrepreneur Speaker Series. This is presented by State 48 Foundation. The ACA will have a table there at one of the events, I believe the third event, or the fourth event, that last one, the 27th, but this is a four-part series on Wednesdays in September. They have a phenomenal lineup set up. It's from 6 p.m. from about 6 to 8 p.m. In downtown Phoenix at Walter Studios. It's a great series. We went to it last year. They did a great job putting together with great speakers. And there's also the Challenge Her Phoenix program presented by the SBA. And we're going to post links to these programs and events in the chat, so you can click on those links to get more information. And then also coming up in October is the 2023 ADOT DBE and Small Business Conference. It's going to be down in Tucson. Last couple of years was virtual, but they are back to an in-person conference. This is a great event for small businesses that are working with ADOT or small businesses just want to get information. I've seen the lineup. There's a lot of good speakers they pulled in for not just ADOT related information, but information that can help support small businesses. And so I will be down there for some of that as well. Looking forward to it. So those are some great upcoming programs over the next month and a half that you can take a look at. And then our upcoming webinars. So next week we have Mastering the P&L, Unlocking Its Potential for Efficient Business Operations. We're looking forward to that. We've got a great presenter lined up to make your P&L, profit and loss statement, understandable and why you need to use it and how to use it and how to create it and so forth. And then on September 5th, we are not doing a boot camp that day. We're with Labor Day, the prior day. A lot of people are going to be getting back into their work week and scrambling on Tuesday. So we will let you take care of that stuff. And then we will continue back the following week on September 12th with an HR related webinar, really focusing on independent contractors versus employees and things you need to know and understand to make sure you don't get yourself into trouble. So we got a great lineup, and we've got the rest of the year already booked out for the webinars, and we've got an amazing lineup up through until December. So stay tuned for those emails that will share that information. So with that, we're going to jump into today's session. We've got a returning presenter who we'd love to have on with us. We have Jeffrey Lynn, founder and CEO of Blaze Experts. Jeffrey Lynn is an amazing presenter, so we're excited to have her with us. But before she takes over, we're going to have Faith launch a couple polls. We're going to have some questions and get some feedback from the audience real quick. You know, what stage is your business in right now? Are you a startup, growth, established, mature, decline, or not applicable? Go ahead and post that up. We've got 3 questions on here. So what stage is your business? And then what challenge are you facing? And then how optimistic are you that it will get better in the next year? So let's take a couple minutes so you can answer some of those. Your responses are helpful. I know Jeffrey Lynn looks at these also in her presentation, and we'll do some on-the-fly tweaking based on your feedback. It also helps us understand some of the topics we may want to adjust, or if we want to do special sessions, or some of the workshops we may do. So your feedback is very important. So it looks like right about 50% are startup or just getting off the ground. And then next with newer growth, experience, and expansion. So looks like some customer acquisition is leading on the challenges. We got a lot of people that are very optimistic and somewhat optimistic of this next year. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and we went and close the poll there. So thank you for that. I'm going to share the results real quick. So you can see the results on there. Again, thank you all for participating in the poll and sharing that feedback. All right. So with that, Jefferson, I'm going to stop sharing, let you jump right in.
Okay, thank you for doing that poll. That's so helpful. Now I can gear this to exactly who is on the call today and make it relevant and make it helpful. Oh my gosh, did I do the technology right?
Yes, you did. All right.
Yay! Yay! Okay, let's get started. So today we are standing apart without shame. And the first thing I want to talk about when you are talking about standing apart is everybody is always going for their unique value proposition. We just need to make sure that we've established our differentiation. And I want all of you to know that it actually, for you to be really successful in your marketing, and I am talking today about top of funnel all the way down to the sales conversation, because any piece or part of your marketing is not going to be effective from brand all the way to closing the deal if you're not putting all the pieces and parts together. And one of the things being a brand first agency is that we want to make sure you're distinctive, but you are consistent in figuring out what that message needs to be and taking it all the way through until someone even goes on to return or recommend. Maybe they have gone all the way through and used your services, gotten all the way to the goodbye stage, but you want to make sure they become an ambassador for your brand. So I want to talk today about how to take your unique value proposition and take it a step further so that it becomes a distinction instead of just a differentiation, and how to draw your rock star customer, your dream client, into you by being relevant, by appealing to how they want you to tell your story versus how you do. I know as entrepreneurs and business owners, so often we are so close to what we do and we know our expertise and we know what we do well, but we have a really hard time communicating it to everyone who is out there. Why don't they just get it? Why don't they get me? I already know what I'm selling, what I'm doing, what I provide for the world. Why don't they understand it? It's frustrating. It's daunting. It's disappointing when they don't come in droves and line up at your door or hit your website the second you launch it. So how do we, the reason we're here today, how do we use our brand to drive our marketing and generate leads, especially because we're all optimistic for the most part about what the next year brings for us. And that's so true with so many of you being startups. So let's dig in and do this. What do you start with? This is the easy part. This comes from all the years I spent in journalism. You have to do the who, the what, the where, the why, the when, the how. That's where you begin. If you start with this, if you know who you are and who your target market is, if you know what you're selling, you have an offer, you have a product, you have something to sell, then you're halfway there. Then you just have to decide where you're selling it, online, in person, brick and mortar, when it's good for people to buy it. What stage of life are they in? What problem are they facing? What challenge are they overcoming? And according to that poll that we just looked at, many of us are worried about customer acquisition. That is why we're here. So when do we need to be selling to them? When they need our process and when we have the bandwidth to provide it. And then why? Why are we doing what we do? We'll dig into that in a second, because there's a whole lot of conversation about people buy your why, and I have my own specific take on that. And then how? How are you delivering your service or product? And is that a part of differentiation for you? Simon Sinek touts that why. I want to come back to that for a second. He says it's the why that makes sense to your customers, that they buy your why instead of what you're selling. I would argue it's whether the why makes sense to them. So if we can align our values and make it relevant to our target market, not necessarily who we are, we're often not our target market. If we can make it relevant to them, then the why makes sense. But if we can't relate it back to why it makes sense for them, I think that's the number one mistake I see on websites all the time. A website just needs to do three things. It needs to tell me I'm in the right place as a site visitor, tell me what you do and how it will help me, and tell me how to hire you. If you're not doing those three things on your homepage, go back and take a look at that, because that is all it needs to do. You got 3 seconds when somebody loads a website to get them there and go through it. So make sure you're telling them they're in the right place, that it is built for them, that it's not just all about you, then how you help them, and then how to hire you. That's my big tip for the day. Okay, it's only one of them. So who are you? Here's an exercise that you all can do, and I believe Faith is making the handouts available to you too after the fact, so you can kind of go through this and workshop. I don't ever want to do a talk like this and not have it be actionable, so that you can take the steps and leave with something and know that you're on the right track versus waiting to do that later. So what I want you to think about are the qualities that make you smile. This is our SMILE formula. First, what makes your service or your product superior? And by superior, I mean, yes, makes you different than your competition, but what makes you better than your competition? Maybe you're the fastest. Maybe you're the most thorough. Maybe it's your process. Whatever the short phase is that makes you stand head and shoulders above anyone else, break that down into one word that you can expand upon in any of your messaging, or even as you build out your brand. Secondly, look at what makes you memorable. How do people feel when you enter a room? How do your people feel when you leave the room? This is what makes your lasting impression. And I want you to think about what people have said they remember about you. Often it's the perception of others, not what you think, that will resonate the most. Thirdly, think about an individual, because when you're building your brand and marketing, you are blending who you are into what you do. It is your values, it is the way you approach life. It might even be your personality that makes the difference and makes you distinctive. And it doesn't matter if you have a restaurant or you're a solopreneur delivering a coaching service. If you are blending who you are into what you do, you never have to worry about being authentic. You will always be real, and you don't have to remember what your brand is like, because it comes naturally. So what is that makes you you? Is it that you're quick to laughter? Is it your inquisitive, curious mind? What do your best friends appreciate about you? That's one of those things that makes that individual aspect stand out. What is the longest lasting? That thing that's been with you since you were a child that people would go, oh, they're so blah, blah, blah. Mine was tenacity, imagine. But what is yours? It doesn't have to be unique to you, because when you blend all of this together, it makes the style that will help provide your consistency. And then you have experience and expertise. What is the experience or expertise you bring to the table? It might be your core genius. It might be your superpower. It might be your view of the world at large. It might be this innovative, inventive product that you created from nothing. It might be fine-tuned intuition, knowledge, wisdom gained in a certain area. Think one word. Is it intelligent, insight, statistics, design, numbers, illustration, frugal innovation? That will help you on the road from differentiation all the way to distinction. Now, why is it, oh, there, we'll have lines come now because, yeah, technology. Now, how does the brand as a whole come together to make this all easy to communicate your message to everyone? Well, I like to think of it as a brand mall, right? A mall without anchor stores will close. We all know it will. It'll just go away. But if we only have the anchor stores, people will run into Sephora at JCPenney, buy their lipstick and turn around and leave. But we want people hanging out on our mall. So we start with our anchors, our mission, vision, and values. This doesn't mean that you put these right up front and center on your homepage. Remember, we talked about that. It means that if you know what your mission, vision, and values are, you know what your why is, you know what you're selling, you know how you want to be perceived in the marketplace, then those are the anchors for your brand mall. And without having to say, this is my mission, people will get it because you'll be communicating in a way that matters. Now, what does everybody think about first when they think about a brand? The logo. It's our visual identity. That's what matters. We only need a logo. I have never seen anybody buy anybody just because they have a cool logo. They come to you, they do business with you because of how you communicate your message. So I think of the visual identity, the logo, the colors, the fonts. We do that last in the brand process because that's just your food court. Everybody finds the food in the bar at a party. You can, just like that, you find the food court, but you only hang out there 20 minutes. Then you're off mingling and doing everything else. We want mall walkers in your brand mall. So we want to make sure that we've developed through that SMILE formula and some of the other pieces coming up that we have voice, mood, tone, language, messaging. Those are all ways that we communicate. Yes, Instagram and Pinterest is largely imagery. YouTube is video, but there's still a lot of readers out there, and not for nothing, Google loves when you have words on your website, a minimum of 350 words per page, as a matter of fact, and they like 1,500, but who's going to do that? They scan now. But all of that voice, mood, tone, language, messaging, that's important to your communication. Your style, your personality, your brand pillars, which are the foundation of the brand. It becomes your litmus test because as entrepreneurs, we chase a lot of squirrels. And I like to say your brand pillars take your squirrels at a rave and they put them into ducks in a row. So all these things that you're, oh, we could do this and we could do that and let's do this next. If you have brand pillars to use as a litmus test, you can say, is this, let's say your brand pillars were credible and storytelling and positive, happy comedy culture or something like that. Then if you're off chasing something that doesn't align with those pillars, then you know, that goes in our little bucket list over here and we'll look at that later. But you keep on going with your own focus and your own consistent messaging that stays aligned with your brand until you've given it thoughtful and intentional positioning to decide how it can be worked into your pillars. All of that to say it all needs to speak to your dream customer right here. And it all comes together with a tagline. If your name of your business, if your logo, if your lockup with your logo doesn't tell what you do, Blaze, a branding agency, then you better have a tagline that does tell it, set your brand on fire. And that's how you build that together from the beginning to be working through how that needs to work. So this was one of the things that Robert had said, hey, I really want you to touch on this because it's an interesting way to look at it. My question is always, do you have 4 eyes? 4 things that a brand does for you. It begins by establishing your image. We kind of talked about that in the brand mall. That is the top of how you begin working through your unique differentiation and distinction. You are casting a net when you put words, visuals, logo, colors, fonts, all the things out there. That increases your area of influence among your potential audience, your referral network, your clients, even your competition. So I want you to think about how you want to influence people to work with you or self-select out, because there are some people that just aren't a good fit for us, some customers that we might not want. So we want to make sure that we're casting that net of influence among those people to attract or repel and establish our reputation. From greeting to goodbye, your brand has impact. Impact is actually, even as especially solopreneurs or startups, you're driven for income. Well, as entrepreneurs, we're always looking for one of three things: more freedom, more impact, or more income, usually all three. But what we have found in doing this all these years is if you're driving impact, it builds your brand reputation. If you are moving the needle for people, if you are providing solutions to problems, if you are changing your little slice of the world, affecting growing and ongoing opinions of you and your business, it happens through their customer experience during their customer journey, and it helps you increase your impact. And when you increase your impact, income follows. Now, when you put that all together from your brand model and you think about these 4 I's, it creates a positive perception, interaction, opinion, and feedback reviews. It also provides that consistency I was talking about, because you don't want your logo and your front-facing brand to be Louis Vuitton, and then your customer experience to be Jake from State Farm in his khakis. You want to deliver what people expect. So when you're building your brand, you're putting it all together as your marketing piece. You want whatever that experience you're delivering, if it is khakis, casual, State Farm Jake, then you want that to be depicted on the front side, the front-facing brand as well. Don't ever promise something you can't deliver. So your brand promise comes into this: I'm casting an image that casts that net of influence so that I can have impact for my target market, and that drives income because it has value. If any piece of that is disrupted or incongruent, that can make it a problem. So once you've done that brand, and then you have those 4 I's all in process, then we go into the 4 A's of lead generation. Now listen up, because I know this was one of the things on the poll that many of you said we really want to do. If you have your messaging and your communication, your brand all solid from greeting to goodbye, this is how you put it into your marketing so that you can have the results that you want. When you have all those 4 I's, you're putting yourself out there, differentiating yourself with a cohesive, consistent brand style to build awareness. That look and feel, that personality infused in your unique brand, that creates the attraction, because your values might be aligned. You might have a product offering or a service offering that aligns with what they need, and that attracts the attention. It also attracts your rock stars to you. So what you do with your brand at that point, supporting your style, sharing your expertise, communicating your value, that awakens their desire to get to know you better. That know, like, trust factor comes from their curiosity about what they would gain from working with you and want to find more about supporting your mission, or if it's in alignment with their values. And lastly, we take action. Your brand style affects all of these parts, and it helps establish your image. It clarifies your vibe, piquing curiosity, and attracting those you do your best work with and for. I'll get into this a little bit later, but as you are putting this out on social media, emails, videos, on your own website, think of your marketing doing these things, but doing them in this order. When you are marketing, you know what it's like when you just get an offer, you get an ad every day, every day, every day, every day. You either get to the point where you're like, okay, fine, I'll buy it. Or you say, I don't want to see this ad anymore. because we have that opportunity now. So instead, I would urge you, as you are using content marketing, which is the most frugally effective way to get your word out there, is give again, give more, and then offer. Don't make an offer every time you post, because people get turned off by that. They're getting really savvy. So if you are giving them, you are educating them, you are telling them, it can be about doing it themselves, but it can be about what you can do for them. But only make an offer every 3 or 4 times, and you will see a difference in who responds to your marketing. Okay, so we've created awareness, attraction, and action. And we've done the W5H, who, what, where, when, why, how. You've defined your target market. You've determined your guest or customer experience from greeting to goodbye. And you know how you want your dream customer to feel when they work with you. So how do you apply it? As I talked about, your best clients will align with your values. So all you have to do now is to be real, be genuine. Not all sunshine and roses, not putting your best foot forward all the time, but addressing real problems and how you solve them. Not by literally spelling it out for them, although occasionally you need to with that call to action, that offer piece, but mostly by infusing your belief in your product or service into what you communicate. In your head, tell them what you're thinking about, what people are asking of you lately. The reason FAQs are so helpful, and they're helpful in your marketing, is because if 3, 4, 5 people are asking that question, lots of people want to know the answer. So tell them what you're hearing on the street, why it's important. That is relatable. Tell them why it matters to you. This is your heart piece, and perhaps why it should matter to them. What are you passionate about? That's that why we were talking about. It inspires people. And your habits. Tell them your process. Tell them why it works. Tell them about the results. What does it do to make lives better? Or how to get started on their own before they need you, so they will. Those habits will educate people. That brings the best people to your door and helps the others select out, so that you're not wasting time with people who might not work with you anyway or might not be a good fit. So how do we have more impact to attract more income via our image and influence? Well, your marketing has to do just 3 things. Remember I said, hey, your formula would be give more, give again, offer. But your marketing itself can do these 3 things to be effective. Educate, inspire, relate. That's right. Education, inspiration, relatability. It ensures your message resonates with the people that you want to attract. And don't just tell me, show me. Present a story. Give me a case study. Help me understand why I should care. When you do this and follow the 4 I's in conjunction with it, you're using image, influence, and impact to tell the story to generate income. As you educate, you inspire, and you relate. Don't oversell. Remember, keep the awareness, attraction, awakening with the formula give again, give more, and offer, so that you have your own easy formula to follow. You're not having to reinvent the wheel every month when you have a new theme for your marketing, and it allows you to do your whole month's worth in maybe 4 hours at the beginning of the month instead of agonizing over it every day, what to post. It just makes it more simple. So how do you connect with your rockstar clients? After you've generated awareness, after you've attracted attention, they're getting curious, they're starting to take action. Well, you know that not just casting that net just brings people to you in a flood. That farming is that top of the funnel. That's your marketing. That's your social media activity. It's content dissemination. That's your website, your sponsorships, a book you write and publish, TV ads, YouTube channel, whatever that looks like that creates the awareness. That will feed you down the road because you are planting, nurturing, watering, feeding, fertilizing, and watching it grow. At the end of the growing season, you'll harvest it. It's everything that we've been talking about so far today. But here's the thing, especially with startups, you need to eat right now. You can't plant seeds and wait 90 or 60 days, or 120 for that matter. So you fish. You ask for referrals. You network to increase the like factor. You ask your clients, friends, family for referrals. You flip from flock to flock to find the one you want to fly with. You try different networking groups. You develop new communities, new realms of influence that you have, and that starts building a referral network of people who get to know you for exactly what you do. And this is where Deep and Narrow gets it done. If you get known for one thing, you're known by everybody for that one thing, versus trying to get known to everyone for everything. You get diluted and that differentiation starts to fall off, and you won't ever reach distinction. If you do that one thing and do it well, and everybody knows you for that, that's the jumping off point to grow your business. And then you hunt. That feeds you right now. This is selling. It's the conversations you have that close the deals. This is reaching out to those you know. This is keeping your pipeline, your short-term pipeline full. Even as you're building awareness and attraction, this is action right now, because all of that marketing that's building awareness and action is taking you through that funnel to that action piece, which normally usually ends with somebody taking action. They click to buy, or they come in to have a conversation so that they can be convinced to buy what you have to offer. I had a client ask me once, hey, can you build me a lead magnet that'll do all the work for me, sell my $20,000 program, and have people just click to buy it, because I'll be happy to talk with them after they purchase, but I don't want to talk to them until then. And I laughed and I explained that if I were making that happen, first of all, I would be in so much demand, you'd never be able to get a hold of me, because I would have figured it all out for the world. And secondly, you couldn't afford me once I figured that out. So it really does come down to that conversation, that sales conversation, and connecting with a client or a customer, especially in high ticket items. So as you go through that, I want you to think about it strategically from top of the funnel in the marketing all the way down to the sales conversation, because yeah, sales is just a conversation. And that's how we convert. Some of that conversation happens on our website and they convert right there. Some of that conversation happens when they walk in our storefront and they convert right there. We have to get them there. So remember, you are auditioning them as much as they are auditioning you. It's not just that you want to connect with people and convince them to work with you. You're actually doing an audition to see if you want to work with them. And that changes the power dynamic and empowers you to lead a conversation, to carry them all the way through to conversion, and know at what point you might not want to continue with the conversation. If you have done that work with the SMILE formula, if you are using the 4 I's and the 4 A's, if you are using the model, give more, give again, and offer, if you are doing all of those things to gain impact for your clients, then you will start to know the hook. What is that piece of information I can give to somebody that makes them want to do business with me? And when do I want to avoid using it? Because we might not be a good fit. Make sure your whole discovery call always focuses on them, just like your website. Tell me I'm in the right place. Tell me what you can do for me, and then tell me how to hire you. And remember, you have more than one shot. Not everything happens the first time they click your Instagram ad. Not everything happens the first time they watch your YouTube video or they walk in your store. Sometimes they have to think about it. And here's the hardest part. Don't solve their problem before they pay you. If you are having a sales conversation and they tell you all the problems they're having, and you solve them all in that conversation, why would they hire you? Now, there is a school of thought that says, hey, if I'm giving away this much for free, how much will they expect, and how much will they be excited to work for me, and think about how much I'll give them if they're paying me. It's a very good frame of reference, and one I subscribe to. I do things like this all the time to educate people because I want everybody to succeed. But just because you tell somebody what they need to do doesn't mean you need to tell them how to do it. If that is your core genius, if that is your expertise, if that is the wisdom you have to impart, there's probably a reason you're in business and you're creating value for people. So yes, tell them how you might be able to help them. Tell them you understand their problem, you've seen it before, and you have ideas on how to solve it. Absolutely build confidence in that exchange. But if you completely solve the problem for them for free, that stands in the way of more startups, more solopreneurs, more new businesses than anything I've ever seen. Did I cover everything I wanted? I did, Robert, I went off on a tangent again. Yes, because you get paid to solve problems. So let's make sure you get paid, because you're running a business, which means it is your livelihood, and you have a right to charge the value of what you are worth. And then just remember, sales, like I said, it's just a conversation. So converse and convert. Your marketing, if you just put out and disseminate information all the time without engaging with other people with the same interests, without networking, hunt, fish, farm, without doing any of those pieces, it can fall flat. You want to be having a two-way conversation with them on your website, in your social, even in your advertising, your forms, all of those things, because brand and marketing leads to sales. And that's why we're here. I bet we're going to have some questions, Robert.
We do have some questions. If you have any additional questions, post them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. It helps make sure we can catch them. So first I'm going to jump down to another question because it ties into exactly what we were just talking about. It says, do you have some type of template on how to ask friends, family for referrals without coming off as slimy MLM or Oliver Twist begging?
That's a great question. And I like to think that I really actually love to sell because it gives me an opportunity to meet more people. And I don't think I come off slimy, do I, Robert?
No.
So what I do when I ask for referrals from my clients is I will send them an email or have a conversation with them and say, hey, you know, when we did this brand, or we did this campaign, or we did this website, you said X, Y, and Z. I remember you being so excited about A, B, and C. Here's a testimonial I wrote up based on what you've told me. Would you be so kind as to edit this and put it on a review or email me back? And you know what? 7, 8 out of 10 will do that because you've done the work for them. If you go back to a client and you say, hey, will you write me a review, or will you give me a review on Google, or will you send me a testimonial? 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, yeah, sure. But they'll never get around to it. But if you make it easy for them and parrot back to them things they've already told you about the work you've done together, they'll edit it and send it back to you and be like, yes, this is exactly what I said. Go with it. And then if they click through on your review link and leave it on the review, even better. But if they don't, if they say yes in the email, you have it in writing, put it on your website and use it that way.
Excellent. So we had another question I'm going to ask that was in the chat, and it's a good question, so I don't want to miss it. It says, how do you distinguish between brand voice versus brand mood?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's very similar. So when you think about brand mood, if you say my brand mood is happy, that's too vague, right? You want your brand mood, if you want happy, it could go anywhere from content to pleased to euphoric to giddy to full of laughter. But you want to be very specific on that overall mood that you want to depict. For instance, my mood is often very intense, which is why we're named Blaze. So that there's an intensity to the mood, but your brand voice might be confident, assuring, right? So even as my mood is intense, I am all about education. So I'm always wanting to make sure I know my stuff and I'm telling it the way I know it to be. So that's your voice. Your brand voice is more about the mood is overall an essence of the brand. How does it feel? How, when people see just the logo, that food court, or they're in tune with your mission, vision, values, how does it feel to them? Versus your brand voice might be educational, but not academic, or it might be casual, but not unsophisticated. So that's kind of how you would think through that.
Excellent. We have some great questions. One, Jeffrey, if you want to pull your slides up here, slide with your contact information, we can have that kind of sit in the background while we go through these questions. That way, so we had a question on how can people work with you. So we want to make sure.
Put it on here. I don't even know.
You know what? If it's not on here, you got an email from me today, everybody, with the reminder of the boot camp. Just respond and let me know, and I can put you in contact with Jeffrey Lynn.
And I can type it in the chat. It's just, it's one of those things that I do this for, well, because I freaking love it when you ask me to come on, but I didn't even think about selling myself. What? Yeah, some talk that was.
So we were just talking about customers and brand. This is another question we have is, you mentioned we're often not our target market. So how do we identify our dream customer?
Oh, that's good. I know there are a lot of, like, if you Google how to find my target market, there are like all these questionnaires out there that will take you through it and go, who is this and who is that and who is this? At Blaze, we do a different thing called Blaze Play. So we go through and we kind of think about like the people that if you were hiring employees, what would be the non-negotiables? How would you want them to act and behave, right? And then we might ask, who do you like to hang out with? Like what kind of people light you up and energize you versus the ones that suck the energy out of you? And then you might think about your best customer that you've had to date. What are they like? Kind of profile them. And then we might think about how do people work with others? So even if you're looking at your own relationships or what challenges you or what lights you up, you start to pull together. And I really don't like the word avatar, because I think even B2B, the person who's making a decision is a real person. And they have their own interests and passions. And the whole trick is to make sure your values are aligned. So I may be a 50-something-year-old woman, and my target market might be an 18-year-old bike enthusiast. So we are still going to have things in common when it comes to activity, moving our bodies, what we do out in nature, all of those things. So you start to find the commonalities that you do share with your target market without pushing your values onto them, because that alignment will come together.
Okay, and then we have, it kind of ties with that. What are the ways to define the brand pillars?
Brand pillars are a little harder to define. So here's how I look at it. These are the things that after it's the next to the last thing we build in a brand, because the last thing would be that brand story, right? Usually the copy paste that would go on your about page. Boom. So right before that, right after brand promise, you're looking at brand pillars, and how you want to think about that, like I said, is a litmus test. So you want to say, okay, as my business grows, I might be a solopreneur right now, I might have a team of 5, but if I'm going to be a $5 million corporation with 50 employees, I'm not going to want to sign off on every social media post. It would be horrible. So you want to be able to hand that off to a team. How do you do that and trust that there'll be no red flags and all of that? If you have built brand pillars in place, which is how people experience your brand, greeting to goodbye, then somebody else can go, I wrote all this copy and I did all these graphics, or I did this flyer, or I built this website. It hits two of the three. You want them to be able to go, you know what? I used this as my litmus test. It doesn't fit this one. So I need to have a conversation. Are we going to adjust this brand pillar, or do I need to go back to the drawing board to make sure I hit all of these pieces and parts? When you're thinking about that, it's not necessarily a front-facing mood, voice, or tone. It is more about checking the boxes. So for instance, Blaze marketing. Is it intense? Is it inspiring? And does it motivate people to figure things out on their own? Those are my brand pillars, but they don't have any place in the voice and tone. It's what my team uses to go, is it igniting a passion? Is it making somebody excited about building a brand? Because people often think it's going to be a 6-month heavy, arduous process because they've been trying to do it on their own. And when they can figure out that it can be fun and it can be quick and it can be, and it can come out exactly meshing their head, their heart, and their habits, then it makes it a lot easier. But you have to ignite that and inspire that feeling to want to participate. And so that is one of our pillars versus brand, voice, tone, mood.
Excellent. We got a couple of good questions in here still. So I appreciate everybody's questions. We have really good questions today on this topic. It says, next one is, what about ABC, always be closing? Is in this hypersensitive world, how do you address that?
What didn't that come to, I mean, I remember when I was running a newspaper in the 80s that, you know, that was the thing that we kept telling our salespeople. I think the always be closing comes down to after you've done that audition. I think you want to be closing once you have determined that this is your target market and you do want to work with them. I can't tell you how many clients of mine there that have said when they first came to me, I just want to fire like all of my clients and start over. And I often find that that's because they have been doing the always be closing instead of being discerning and distinguishing who exactly they want to work with. The people you do your best work with and for. So always be closing, yeah, at the end, because remember, you have more than one shot. So you don't have to do the hard sell. You don't have to be, what was it? Somebody said slimy, right?
Yeah.
If it ends up being a good fit, they need something that you can provide. It's not a difficult close. It happens organically, and it happens because your values are aligned, and then it makes for an enjoyable experience in delivering the product or service instead of beating yourself up and thinking you should have charged a tax for being a pain in the you know what.
Excellent. So before you're getting to that closing, you talk about feeding customers. This next question ties to that. Says, what is an example of feeding your customer when it comes to the hunt, fish, feed scenario?
Your customers get all of the good things. So you don't have to hold anything back. Once they are a client, that is when they are paying to be in the inside circle. And so they get everything first and most. I think as soon as somebody decides to have a paying relationship with you, you open the floodgates. But up until then is when you're hunt, fishing, and farming, right? So that is when you are doing the relatability, the education, and educate, relate, and inspire. That's when you're doing that piece. So you're not giving too much away for free, but you're alluding to everything that you can give away once somebody is working with you.
So with that, is it possible to overfeed a customer?
That's, I think each one is different. Without knowing exactly what kind of customer feeding we're talking about, if they're drinking from a water hose, that is counterproductive, right? If you can't take all of your knowledge and just dump it on them, because they'll get overwhelmed and go away, or they'll figure they have all they need and they'll fire you and come back again in a year, right? I think it's much more important to be strategic about the marketing and about your process with your clients, and give them exactly what they need when they need it. That fosters a long-term relationship and continues the always be selling, always be closing scenario, because they're going to keep coming back because you're giving them exactly what they need when they need it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And we got one question I think will take us right to time. It says, do you have any advice for an organization trying to market a location, i.e. a city or region, and not a product?
Say that again, Robert.
Do you have any advice for an organization trying to market a location, a city or a region, and not a product?
Okay, so what you'd want to do is take a step back all the way to the strategy piece on that one and think about image all the way back to the 4 I's, right, that we started with. Think about your image and your influence first and foremost. What do you want people to expect from your region, and what will they actually experience when they get there? Marry the two so that they're congruent, so that if you're casting an image that is influencing people to come try it out, that what they see is what they'll get. It's just depicted and put out there in a way that is attractive, right? So you'll take that awareness and attraction piece. At the same time, you're working on your image and influence piece. And Robert, if I could, I saw one chat in here that is actually really, really relevant. Christine said, so should you focus more on who the company is if you've been in business for a couple of years? Because my business partner and I are very different from each other and have very different qualities. That would be a different message. I love this one. So for years and years and years, I was branding big resorts, like high-end resorts. And there would be a leadership team of 12 people in the room that were trying to brand a hotel and figure out what that message is going to be using vision, values, mission, and all of that. When we do the exercises, you find so much more commonality than you would think you would of the kind of values that are aligned. So even if your personalities are different in the room, you're going to be working together because there are some similar values that are aligned. And those are the values that we would choose to pull out to depict front facing, so that it would be a blend of the head, heart, and habits of both of you, or more than just two of you. And it usually comes together so that it's a blend of all the things that everybody can live with and everybody's happy with. And with all due respect, it's not as much about what you like for your logo as it is your target market. We have those arguments all the time, but I don't love it. I love that person's logo, but that person's logo is for that product that you like, that is not the product you sell. So we want to make sure that it's always through the eyes, through the lens of your target market, not necessarily just from your own point of view.
Very good. You know, I'm seeing some of that. I am a part of a nonprofit, and we're in the midst of changing our logo and some of our branding. And it's hard for some of the guys that have been around for a really long time involved and, you know, that really created it all because there's that personal emotional attachment. But the agency that they're using, you know, created a nice logo that still fits with that guy, but it's a little bit different. But we're all going with it because we think it will help. But there's getting over some of that emotional hump was a challenge for some of the people. So,
Yeah.
you know, but working together has been great. So we're right at time. So thank you, Jeffrey Lynn. Amazing presentation. A lot of people asked, the recording will be available later today. So we'll have a slide deck later today or tomorrow morning in the content library, so you can access it there. But with that, we will go ahead and wrap up. We are a couple minutes past, but we appreciate everybody being with us. We look forward to seeing you soon, hopefully next Tuesday morning. So have a great weekend. We will see you next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.